create a vision and share that vision and then refine that vision. And refining the vision means sometimes daily refinements, not one and done. Don't put it in a 3-week binder because, Harvard told you to come up with a mission statement, a vision statement, and other statements. And then you put them in a binder and you're looking at them at your 10-year anniversary. That's not what they meant.
Entrepreneurs, you're in for a treat because we're bringing on someone with 40 years of experience. And like many business owners, he has also experienced his fair share of hardships. And a tip to start us off today: when you're feeling overwhelmed, you're having these hardships present itself, remember to take a deep breath. And instead of worrying about the big, scary end goal, let's make some actionable steps to get there. And some of the advice we'll get today is just going to do that for us. So, Elliot, welcome to That Entrepreneur Show.
Great to be on. Thank you so much.
I'm excited. He's got his own show as well. He's got an awesome book. But in 2015, during a critical phase in his business building journey, Elliot's 19-year-old son, Jake, committed suicide, a devastating event that coincided with the challenges of growing his venture. Despite this tragic loss, he persevered and continued to scale, keep his business running, now manages over $3 million in assets. But of course, he didn't get there overnight. We're going to talk all about he got there, but I would be remiss if I didn't also share the meaningful initiative he started in memory of Jake, A Brighter Day, which has become a renowned national organization helping up to 10,000 teens and families a month with crucial mental health support. So I do commend you on your work there. And I have to welcome everyone here to That Entrepreneur Show. Thank you for keeping this a top 2.5% global show. Very honored to continue to bring on great guests like today. Elliot, as I mentioned, also has a pod, #1 best-selling book, Driven: How to Elevate Your Success as an Entrepreneur. So make sure we stick around to the end of the show, get his contact information, find out where to find his pod, his book. And we're brought to you today by ComingAlivePodcastProduction.com. Head there today to start your journey. But Elliot, you know what we're doing? We're going back in time a little bit. Why did you want to become an entrepreneur?
It's a great question. I have to tell you, people become entrepreneurs for several reasons. Well, one of them is they're not employable. 2 of them is they have dreams. 3 of them, they feel like they're smarter than everybody else in the company or smarter than the boss. For me, I started off as an accountant in a large accounting firm, and boy, that was so not for me. And I realized that. And I had an opportunity to start business #1, which became an industrial packaging business. And I realized that that's what I love. I love starting things. I love running things. Most entrepreneurs, by the way, hate wearing the managerial hat. So we all have that struggle. We all have the Apple struggle, I should say, where you start off with one and then it's no fun anymore. But I started a packaging business in the 80s, and then after graduating from Rutgers, and then I realized, okay, I'm growing so quickly. Why am I always running out of money? And so my valuable lesson in my first business, which was a big success in my 20s, was growth doesn't mean cash flow. They're not the same thing. I found myself in debt, a lot of money owed to one of those big banks in New Jersey. I call them old stodgy banks of New Jersey. And I realized I needed to sell the company, and I sold that company. And then I started an environmental cleanup company, and ultimately I sold that company too. And then I decided I wanted to get into the financial business, the investment management, financial, and run it more like an accounting firm than like a typical single advisor type of program. And I started Prosperity Financial Group in 93, and now that's a $500 million business. Started Prosperity Wealth Management, an out-of-state firm, back 10 years ago. That's another $500 million business. So it's $1 billion here out of the East Bay of California. And then 10 years ago, when my son passed away, we started a foundation to make a difference. Thank you for bringing that up. And so we touch 3,000 families every single month. And now I'm just getting ready to move on to the next phase of my life. Going to keep the charity. I'm trying to sell the other 2 businesses or take them to the next level of new business ownership and start another business. That'll be business #6, because that's what entrepreneurs do.
I love it. Well, as you can see today, everyone, we have a serial entrepreneur on our hands. He's been in many different business sectors, which is very impressive how you found success in completely out there different, right? They're not related, but they are. What are some learning lessons you had from business 1 and 2? You mentioned the 1 already, which is a big one, budgeting, cash flow, all of that. But what's another one you can share from one of those businesses that's helped position you today, getting ready for 6?
I think the biggest lesson of my first one was uncontrolled growth. I didn't understand it. You know, the terms they teach you now in investment banking schools and all the MBA schools, good or bad, they talk about burn rate, cash burn rate, what you're doing. I was in my 20s. I should have surrounded myself with somebody that understood that. I didn't do that. And I didn't get advice from anybody that I should do that, including several different accounting firms that didn't advise me to do that either. That would have been great advice. Maybe I was too cocky and maybe I was too young to even listen. That's what they saw. So that was business number one, and you pay the price for that. In business number two, what I didn't realize is that sometimes your personal life really suffers when you're an entrepreneur. It really struggles. And we have three wonderful kids. One passed away, but I did not see my wife going down the path of depression because I was busy working and bringing home money. And I was 30 something years old, making $30,000, $40,000 a month, way ahead of all of my friends in those days. And I didn't realize that she was going through the day at home with the lights turned off in the house or sitting outside alone. I just didn't see it because I thought the force of my positive personality was strong enough for anybody around me to be positive. And that's something I overestimated, my own positive strength around others. So those would be my two lessons. So now I surround myself with better people. I build a team. That's what I always thrive in doing. I come up with a game plan that makes sense and I alter that game plan, sometimes daily if that's what's needed to do on that. But the key is surround yourself with people smarter than you, better than you, and give them an opportunity to work with you and share your vision. That's the biggest lesson.
I love that, building a team. And I was hard for me in the beginning, delegating it all. It started with a few emails, then it evolves to invoices and coordination and all of that. You have any tips for any of our aspiring entrepreneurs or current entrepreneurs tuning in today on hiring the right people?
So here's a mistake that my father made, and who was a small business owner. And I call him an entrepreneur. He never made a lot of money. He's kind of a blue collar income. I don't think he ever made more than 40,000 a year in those days. And he said to me incorrectly, if you hire people smarter than you, then ultimately they will steal all of your clients and become your biggest competitor. And what we've learned is exactly the opposite. You can have anybody steal clients and anybody become your competitor. That's just life. But if you surround yourself with a brain trust, with people that can do things that you don't do, especially because you do maybe out of 25 things you have to do, you probably do five things pretty well. And then you do another 10 things well, and then you do some things horrible, just horrible. You've got to hire people that compensate for things that you don't do well. For instance, I'm a horrible admin person. You don't want me ever filling out your paperwork. I'm terrible with that. I'm not a tech guy. I don't even know what you do, and I can tell you you're better at tech than I am because I don't have the patience for technology. I use it all day. I love it. I need it. I have a short fuse with it, short temper with tech. If my tech was my son, I'd probably be beating it every day. Kind of really mad because I don't have that. But that's an example of hiring to your weakness, not just hiring to your strength.
I love that. We need to find people to compliment us. We can't possibly be good at everything. I was never a fan of social media, right? So then as my team grew, that was important to me to have someone come in for social media help, take care of myself, the clients, all of these things, because my time is more valuable spent in other areas. Thank you for shining light on this. We're just getting started and we've done so much, but we didn't even get to your best-selling book. Let's dive into why you wrote a book as a business owner.
Well, that's another great question. I was wanting to write a book for a long time. And so in world of finance, I didn't think the world needs another book on buy and hold or economic reports or the stock market since the 1920s, and it always goes up like a mountain. You don't need me for that. If I were to go back and teach at college, you don't need another business professor. I would teach world history because there's so many great lessons that I could teach there. What I want to do is write a book, especially after watching Mark Zuckerberg. That really got me motivated to write a book because I met too many entrepreneurs now. Let me say wannabe entrepreneurs who have said, I'm going to be just like Mark Zuckerberg. I'm going to start a business and in 5 years, I'll become a billionaire. And they think that works. And then I'll marry the prettiest woman in town and have three great kids and I'll be perfect and I'll be at private schools and end up at Harvard. That's a map that is so wrong for reality. So I wanted to write a book that said, hey, entrepreneur is real life and real life is filled with forward, backwards, up, down, success, tragedy, failure, although entrepreneurs don't fail, they only have painful learning lessons, and elation. We have all these emotions that everybody else has. And I've experienced all of them. I've got backwards, I've got forwards, I've got up, down. And sometimes I have to think to myself in bed when I have to pinch myself and say, hey, I've come a long way in life. And to pinch myself and just be really grateful that I am where I am and not starting over at my age, because there are people that are doing that too. And so that's what I wanted to write about. It's a journey, and that when you doubt yourself and when you things aren't going well, that's when you really need to dig in and think about, where's my strength? Where's my weakness? What do I have to hire for? If I'm a lousy accounts receivable person, then I need to hire that. If I'm great in engineering and I'm lousy at selling my own product, then create a sales team around me and a sales management team. If I'm the best seller in a company, but I can't produce or I can't do anything backroom operations, then hire that out. Do something to go to your strength, but understand what it is. And that's hard because you've got to submit your ego to admit you're not perfect.
I love that. And I had to experience that many times as an entrepreneur where grad school, spoke for my MBA commencement, 25 years old, had some quick success. And then as you learn, okay, that's going to evaporate. How do I keep this dream alive? MBA grad working as a busboy to eventually make this dream come true. Hospitality has played that role for me throughout because you either sit and sulk and make an excuse like I learned from my accident, or you find a way to keep going. So thank you for shedding light on that. While we're on the book, what's one thing you learned about writing a book and the whole process that you wish you knew before you got started?
Well, it takes a massive amount of discipline to write a book. I came in every weekend, Saturday or Sunday, one day every weekend to write the book because there's no time during a week. It took a year. And I hired somebody out of Texas where I said, can I dictate the book to you, my words to you, and you send them back to me because I'm so slow. Now, to grant the AI would do that today, but that wasn't around 4 or 5 years ago.
Right.
And so she was really good. And when I read my own words, I didn't like them. There were so many parts of my own book that I had to remove and say, you can't say that, Elliot. You can't write about that. And so there's a massive amount of discipline. My ex-wife, who's a very nice person, has always wanted to write books and become a screenplay writer and just lacked the discipline to do it. And in my 20s, I thought I could be the next Tom Clancy or Robert Ludlum and write these incredible global spy novels, which is the genre I like. I was going to read one more, I think it was a Robert Ludlum book, and then sit down and start writing my own book. And as I was reading his book, he was still alive then, I realized I don't have any of this talent to do that. So I've got to get more talent. So it just reached the point of saying, there's some great lessons here. Sit down, create the discipline. I asked my wife on weekends, I said, I got to go write my book. When do you need me home? And she said, can you be home by 11 on Saturday? So I'd go in at 6 in the morning and write till 10:30. Or she said, no, Saturday's bad. Go in Sunday. And I did that for a full year.
Oh man, well, I love the lessons you're teaching because it is not as simple as opening your Word doc or getting a notebook and a pen and you're writing a book. It's going to take some time. You're going to have that itty bitty committee in your head wrestling with you, like you shared. Remove this. Do I keep this? So that's a lot of fun. But what's also fun for me, of course, podcasting, right? You've got an awesome show. You're doing a lot of cool stuff. Let's talk about it.
I came up with the idea of podcasting. I'm obviously not an original on that, but you don't have to be an original at everything you do either. Sometimes you could just take a great idea and make it better. And that's okay. If I were to sell orange juice today, it doesn't mean I couldn't make a lot of money. I just have to come up with a better, cheaper, faster, more inventive way to do it. That's all. You're wearing a New York Jets hat. I'm a big New York Jets fan. You can't see it, but
Well, you have the Yankees thing behind you, so I was eventually going to get to that.
well, there's a Joe Namath signed jersey in front of me, a Joe Namath picture, and another Joe Namath there. I was pretty sure growing up in New Jersey that I was going to be the next Joe Namath for the Jets, and I could have been with 6 more inches of height and a stronger arm. You know, but all you got to do is teach them how to be more entrepreneurial and how to do more with what they have. They'd be okay. The key is, I think, whatever we're doing as people, whatever we're going, if you can create a vision and share that vision and then refine that vision. And refining the vision means sometimes daily refinements, not one and done. Don't put it in a 3-week binder because, Harvard told you to come up with a mission statement, a vision statement, and other statements. And then you put them in a binder and you look at them at your 10-year anniversary. That's not what they meant. They might mean that. Real life for you and I is, where am I going? How am I doing it? And so when COVID hit, I had nobody to talk to. Nobody was thinking about the stock market and our business or even our charity because you couldn't do anything live. And I thought, we need a way to reach people. What's going on out there? Why don't I come up with an e-newsletter? And then that became very quickly a podcast on that. And ultimately, we couldn't do our own podcast. It didn't take very long to realize that you need a production company to help. And we've gone through several. production companies. Some are better than others, like every other business. Some just are more reacting to you. Some are driving you. Some are leading you. When I'm hiring an outside company, again, I love this. This is what I do. I love the personality of it. You can see I've got kind of a big personality there. But what I can't do is I can't do production. I can't create this to make it look like Fox or CNN. I don't have the talent to do that. I can't get out millions of views. I need people who can help me with social media and what to do. Do you buy views? Do you sell views? Do you just put them out there organically and hope you get people to watch it? Do you paid advertising? There are a lot of things in there that need to be discussed that I don't have the talent to discuss, but I'm super open-minded to people that are smarter than me and can help me do that. And that suddenly became a top 2% podcast in the world, mostly because we interviewed business owners that made life interesting. Like you, what makes life interesting is interesting to other people.
So many great points there. And again, it goes back to what you said a few times where we're going to outsource our weaknesses and bring it together. You're doing great work. I mean, congratulations on growing your podcast there, the book, multiple businesses. Now, at this point in your life, you've met a ton of people, right? But if you could choose to pick the brain of an entrepreneur who you have not met yet, who would you choose?
I'm going to answer that two ways. I can answer that in historical version, and I want to answer that in business version. So the business side of it is I really wish I spent time learning not his personality, but his drive from the founder of Apple, Steve Jobs. I think he had amazing vision of where he was going. And when he was removed from Apple and ultimately went over to Pixar, I don't know if he started Pixar or went to Pixar. I believe he was one of the founders of Pixar. He just understood that I need to reinvent myself. And he did. And Pixar came out with Toy Story. Now, everybody had a whole different opinion of him after Toy Story than they did before Toy Story. But he was arrogant, and there were a lot of things about him that, as a human being, that you could not like, and so forth. And I wouldn't want to emulate those because I don't have this drive to be likable, but I need to be a good person all the time and the best person I can be. And if that makes you likable, great. But I think from history, I'm a big fan of the Roman Empire. I get the brutality of it. I have to look at Marcus Aurelius and I have to look at Julius Caesar, two people with very different drives in life and very different goals in life. Marcus Aurelius was a philosopher. He was maybe the greatest thinker of the Roman Empire as far as Caesars went, emperors went. He was extremely strategic. Julius Caesar, as brutal as he was, another brutal person on earth. He just was driven always, no matter what happened around him. He was just driven. And I think when you talk about drive and you talk about vision, those are two very different people there that we just talked about. And add Stephen Jobs, three people. You talk about people that have very similar drive, but different visions. And I think drive is where it begins.
I absolutely love that. Well, let's delve deeper here. Where would you have met Steve Jobs if you could have? Where would the location be?
It would have been Pixar
Love
and not at Apple. The reason they removed him from Apple is because he became so arrogant that he thought he was great at everything. And so the conversation we just had is understand that of the 20 things you do or 25 things you do, you're great at 5. That's something that it took him to go to Pixar to understand. It just didn't understand it. And so I think the humbleness and the humility that probably came out at Pixar was probably made Steve Jobs a much better person.
I love that, everyone. That Apple struggle. Growth doesn't equal cash flow, burn rate, uncontrolled growth. We talked about so much from this successful entrepreneur. So, Elliot, thank you so much for giving us some time today here on That Entrepreneur Show. Before I get your socials, your websites, all that, Yankees, Jets, Rangers,
Yankees,
Islanders?
Jets, Rangers. Yeah, absolutely. I like the Sharks here in California.
Okay.
And of course, in Northern California, it's pretty easier to be a Warrior fan.
I was going to ask that before, but we're unique in the Jets, Yankees,
Jets, Yankees,
Rangers.
right. Shane
Typically,
Yankee Stadium rather than one stadium. I have to tell you that I was one of those kids when I was young. Probably today you get diagnosed with ADHD, but I was punching everybody. As soon as I started to play tackle football, my mother got me into football. And with all the neighbors that were kind of bigger than me, all that punching went away. And so I left it on the field, so to speak. And so I learned that I loved football. So my dad, again, owned a small business, was a Giant fan. My older brother was a Giant fan, but the Giants were sold out for 30 years. You couldn't get in there. But Chase Stadium had an upstart team, the New York Jets. They had just signed Joe Namath. I was 6, and my dad, for like $5 a game, could get us into season. Season tickets were $30 a ticket. Season tickets, 6 games at $5 a ticket, just below the lights at the opening of Shea Stadium.
Oh my goodness.
We felt like the planes going to LaGuardia Airport skimmed the top of your head. And we were not allowed to buy food. My mother would pack us meatloaf sandwiches or hot soup or something because they just couldn't afford the food.
How can you today, even?
Yeah, so it was always expensive. And so we'd go there. And so we just became fanatics about the Jets and Joe Namath. And my dad was a little bit of a gambler, and he bet the entire house, the house that we grew up in West Orange, New Jersey, on the Jets winning the Super Bowl. I'm not sure he was able, my mother ever let him make a bet after that, but he did and he won. And, between that and a few other ideas, he was able to put my brother and sister through college and law school.
Oh man, well, you won't hear often many people betting on the Jets, but I love to hear that. And again, Elliot, thank you so much. Now, where can we find you online?
Great. So let me tell you, the company's located at prosperityfinancialgroup.com. My email is Elliot, Elliot, to two L's and one T, at prosperityfinancialgroup.com. The charity is Elliot at abrighterday.info. And my cell is 510-206-1103. I'm on the West Coast, so everybody calling me on the East Coast, try to wait till like 10 in the morning before you call me, if you could, because I do get those 3 a.m. calls every now and then by somebody in a panic saying, can I call you back?
Yep, the time zones always cause some problems. But again, Elliot, thank you so much. Everyone tuning in, you're great. Remember to subscribe to stay current with our community of entrepreneurs. My name is Vincent A. Lancy, and I'm excited to keep this show going with great entrepreneurs just like today with Elliot. Be sure to check out our show partner, ComingAlivePodcastProduction.com. And with that, we're signing off Bay to Bay, San Francisco, Tampa. Elliot, thank you so much.
Great to be here. Thank you, Vince.